Hello everyone, my name is Jen and welcome to the Book Refuge. Alright, so today we are doing the last 10 that I've read. This is something that I just recently started doing. And they've been really popular and done really well, and so I thought I would keep up with this series, kind of doing like the subgenres of romance, kind of. So I have already done this with the last 10 historicals I read and the last 10 mafia that I did, so I will have those videos linked up there if you want. So as you can tell, today we have the last 10 sci-fi romances that I read. Now my rules for this, for myself, the arbitrary rules, but also to not make it too boring, because I would literally just have 2 book series to talk about if I did this. I consider like a series one entry to this if I binge them all at once, right? You'll see what I mean when I go through it. And also I try not to double the authors, but if the books are in different series by the author, then I included them. But to get 10 unique books and series, I had to go back almost 2 years, because I very clearly have like favorite sci-fi authors and like favorite books. So to get books that are like different from that, I had to go so far back. So because that's the case, I do have my laptop here, my Chromebook, because some of these I needed to look up to remember like what they were about, because it's been so long. So please don't mind me if I need to look down at that at some points, because yeah, I was actually shocked. Now, some of these might lean a little more fantasy than sci-fi, but again, I tried to be generous. Even if they were kind of like aliens that are on Earth, or like Earth but in the future, you know, I tried to keep that sci-fi. Now, it doesn't have dystopian in it. I will do like a different video for the last 10 dystopian. And again, this is arbitrary. It's just me as Jen's decision how I do this. But I broke up these subgenre videos like based on like the way that I categorize stuff in my monthly wrap-ups. So that's kind of the thing, right? So yeah, some of these might lean a little more towards fantasy than sci-fi, but again, I tried to be as generous as I could because of how far back I had to go. So I was like, wow, I've been reading so much sci-fi, but again, when I look at it, they're from like the same 4 authors. And so once I like tried to be, you know, not just repeating the same authors over and over again, this got infinitely more difficult. We still do have one author repeat because they have 2 different series that are on my list. But anyway, enough of an intro. Let's get into this. And we're talking about the most recent series that I read. Now, this would be the Clickanian series by Victoria Aveline. I actually will definitely be talking about them a lot in my next weekly wrap-up, which is either out or will be coming out. Not sure where it's at. But I've read the first 5 in this series, basically all the ones that have audiobooks. Some of these are on AnyPlay. The first book in the series is on Audible Plus, and that's actually how I started this. This series has been recommended to me before, both by my booktube friends and by viewers, and I finally started choosing Theo, which is a romance where human women have been stolen from Earth because it is discovered that they are compatible with different races of aliens. And there are a bunch of these races that are dying out. And so it's very rare that they have more female children, and they have very interesting rules on different planets. The first place that we go is this place where like they revere the women, and the women are basically running the society because of this. So like marriages only last for a short amount of time. You don't necessarily have to be completely in love with that person. You're picking them for like their breeding possibilities. And women actually don't like stay with their children because they're going to be married to many, many people through the years. So the men raise the kids, or the kids are like raised in like at a temple and things like that. It's a whole thing. And our heroine of this one, Jade, she's one of these kidnapped women, and she actually ends up escaping. We find out what's happened to these other women in like the more books, but she actually ends up escaping, and so she ends up in this on this planet where they very much help her out, but she does have to pick an alien to be her husband for a short amount of time. And she ends up choosing Theo because it's said that he is one of the, like, I don't know, that he won't be pushing her too far. And Theo thinks that she's a spy or something because nobody chooses him. He's considered scarred and very ugly, but she thinks he's a hunk of burning love. So she's like, I don't mind staring at this guy for 3 months. Sorry, I need a drink. So anyway, I really enjoyed that one. I've given pretty much all the books in this series 4 stars. Again, I'll be talking more about them in a weekly wrap-up, so I don't want to go in too much into this. But I enjoyed this series so much, and I wish that more audiobooks for this series were out already because I wanted to keep reading. But now that I had to switch to the Kindle books, I don't know when I will get to it because it's the end of the year and I have a lot of other books that I have to get to. So we'll see. All right, next, another series that I just binged the last week is the Veria Mates series, which starts with Taken to Veraxia. This book I bought when it was on a sale, but you can actually, with the audiobooks, you can get the first 3 in like a pack. So you only have to use 1 credit to get the first 3 books plus a novella in there. So this world also has like where humans can mate with alien. I mean, that's going to happen in a lot of these, so I won't have to say that every time. But in this one, the humans are kind of being abused in this way. And every so often, this group of aliens will show up and force the women into a hunt where they will chase them down and fuck them, basically, and rape them. Let's call it what it is. And one of the leaders of one of these alien groups ends up coming with one time, and he didn't know that the humans were unwilling to this. He thought the humans were into it. And when he discovers that people from his group have been raping women, he loses his shit. But he also, one of these women is his mate. So he needs to take her. But he realizes all of this isn't consensual. And so that puts him in a really tough place because he wants his mate. He wants to care for her and be with her and mate with her, but she's unwilling. So what's he going to do? So yeah, this book was actually very powerful. The first one is the Taken to Veraxia, and I really, really like that. And I've read the first 3, like I said. There aren't audiobooks for any more past that. So now I'm stuck again. But I really like the different humans we've met, and some of them were dealing with the trauma because they have survived these ceremonies where they've been raped, and then we have some who had to like watch it happen, but it hasn't happened to them. There is also a couple like alien pairings or like half human pairings we see. So we see that along the way. And yeah, I've been enjoying these a lot too. Then we have, because this is where we ran into then, I had a lot of rereads of different books, and so I'm not including those ones. Then there was Craving in His Blood by Zoe Draven. This one was book 2 in her Brides of Color. So this series, of course, is a Fated Mate series too. It has some interesting like Scottishness is mixed into this as well, which is cool, like particularly in the first one because they're a little bit like berserkers, which a lot of the berserker lore like comes from like Scottish area and everything. So this one we have a heroine who is like a bartender type thing, and our hero, he is a prince or like a lord or something like that, and he's gonna have to, basically the point is like the house of Kalium, I can't say it, he's gonna need to have an arranged marriage is the whole point. But he goes to this bar, it's like a blood place basically, because they can go there to feed, because they also have some like vampire aspects to them too. And he discovers his blood mate there, but he knows he can't be with her, so they end up entering kind of a like, I don't know, a mates with benefits situation where he will like feed from her and basically like give her gifts. So it's kind of like a mistress scenario. But the thing is like he's never going to be complete if he doesn't get with her, but he thinks he needs to do it out of duty. It's just one of those. So I like this one quite a bit. Zoe Draven just has a way with her. These books have so much angst in them at the same time, but yeah, really, really loved it. All right, then there was Savage Desire by Tiffany Roberts. This one, hold on, it's been a while, but this one's book 5 in the Infinite City. I love this series. I have one book left. I have the audiobook for it, and I've been putting it off because I don't want to be done with this series. I've really enjoyed it all. But this book also has like a kidnapping theme in it, I believe, because this one we have Tharjan, who he's of course a part of our crew. In this series there's a crew of like mercenaries kind of, but I love them. And he ends up, there is Yuri, and she's this really sweet, delicate, beautiful woman, and he feels this uncontrollable rage that makes it dangerous for him to have him, but she's also like his fated mate at the same time. Then they end up both kidnapped and like being taken away, and they basically need to try to survive until his crew is able to get to them. And she's being like put in a room and trapped with him because people want to like breed them together, but he's afraid of hurting his mate. But it's that kind of thing where like, if she's your fated mate, do you really think that anything you do with her would be able to hurt her? Or might her body be able to handle whatever you want to do with her? I don't know. Anyway, so yeah, that one is book 5 in the series, and it also has a bit of like survivalist stuff going on, because there is a point where they'll like escape from the bad guys and they're trying to survive on this planet again until his crew can come rescue him and before the bad guys can recapture them. So really loved the angst of that. All right, then we have one of the ones that, again, I was a little bit loose with whether this was fantasy or sci-fi. I decided to go with sci-fi, but it might be a bit more fantasy. But again, I needed more to put in this list. I had to go back so far. And so I have Wed to the Ice Giant. And the reason why I kind of left it with sci-fi is, I don't know, I feel like it's a different planet. I don't know. I might be totally off base with this one, but we're going to keep it in. This one probably is definitely more sci-fi, or I mean more fantasy. Sorry. But this starts off like a monster fucker, like Monster Bride series or something, and I really enjoyed this one. In this series though, I've kind of stuck to the Layla Faye books, which one of them just came out and I can't wait to read it. It's I think it's Jack Frost one. I don't know, but I'm excited for it. But there are these monsters can go to this basically like a mating service and look for a bride, and the humans, they can offer themselves to be paired with someone to get money for their families. So basically they sell themselves to these monsters to get care for their family. But the like good thing in a couple ways is, number one, at least the ones that we see, all of the heroes are absolute mush for their brides when they meet them. But the other part of it too is that this mating service is mating like the perfect mates together. So even though it feels very like mercenary and transactional, they're getting paid with their perfect match, each person. So this was a pretty quick story. All of these ones are like novella length, kind of. And again, yeah, sorry, that one's a bit more fantasy, but I threw it in there. All right, then we have Boom Slang by Naomi Lucas. This is book 5 in the Naga Bride series. This one is another fated mate, like a lot of sci-fi is. But this one also has some fun aspects because it has a like older woman. Now, granted, this is like an alien, so it's not quite, whoop, my little tree fell. It's whipping my hair around. It's not quite the same as like, you know, an older man, younger woman one. But the point for the Nagas is that they get drawn to like their mate that they have the best like fertility chance with. And our heroine actually can't have children anymore. So when, you know, she's a scientist, she's seen what's been happening. And so when this Naga is feeling drawn to her, she's like, hey, buddy, I'm not actually completely opposed to you because I've seen what's been happening, but I can't give you snake babies. I can't do that. So I feel like I'd be wasting your time. And he's like, you know, I just want my beautiful mate. I don't even fully understand what I am or who I am. And so I don't need to have babies, right? I know I've just said a lot of words that maybe don't mean anything to you, but these ones, I really love this series. It starts with Viper is the first one. Not only look at these covers, stunning. Not only because I like, look, his tail's grabbing your foot. I like these ones because the heroes are a bit more feral. You know, as I've said with some of these, like the heroes are so like gushy with their women, which I love that too. I do. But I sometimes like when the aliens are more just like take her. Because I love dark romance. So I like a bit more of that, and I don't mind that they're a bit more like violent about it, but they still just want to protect, serve, and fuck their women. So you'll see that in here. But yeah, the series starts with Viper. It's one of those, again, I suggest you start with that because the human plot of like what is happening behind the scenes starts there. But you also could just kind of jump in because each of them, the women are pretty like separated from each other too. But yeah, the series has really started to like accumulate over time. So, you know, you might want to start with that. All right, then we have one that I actually don't like, but we're going the last 10. But some people absolutely adore this author, but I gotta tell you, the angst level, the like trigger warning level, and the HEA level are bananas, okay? For the 2 books I've read from this author, we're both like that. So we have Heat by Arlie Smith. So this scenario at its like base level is there is a fugitive. He is a bad alien, has landed on Earth. It's kind of a, I don't know if it's fully a dystopian Earth. I think it is at this point, but he lands on Earth and he gets energy by killing and like sucking the souls out of humans like into his, I don't know, into this item that will help like power ship, I think. And pretty quickly he like comes across a woman that he wants to keep her for sex the whole time. And so he does. He like kills the person she's with and makes her his sex slave basically for the rest of this book. Then we have the other, who I would call the hero, who's basically like a bounty hunter. So he also gets sent to Earth to chase down this fugitive alien. So he, in his case, ends up finding this woman who's actually an agoraphobic. And he needs to like he needs her vehicle and like needs her to help him chase after this fugitive. And so he kind of is kidnapping her too, but he's not doing it in the same like brutal fashion that this horrible criminal is. So yeah, we're in this like chase across, I think we're in like the desert of the United States. I think that's where we're at, is like going across there, and we're trying to catch him before he's able to escape off planet and like get away. So this book is so painful for me. Again, the angst in this, the complex things, there is like a Stockholm syndrome issue happening in the one place. There's so much like rape and assault, body modification, brainwashing, like punishment and torture. Like there's just so much in these. And Arlie Smith writes that in, from what I know, like all of her books. But some people absolutely adore this author and the pain she puts you through, right? Like there's those authors that they hurt us so good that we have a bit of Stockholm syndrome. That's what I call it, right? I have my own authors who do that, okay? So that's why I understand this. Though this book personally, as an HEA connoisseur, as that's what I need, by the time I finished this book, I wanted to chuck it at a wall and burn it with fire because my emotions were a mess. That's going to work for some of you. It's absolutely going to work for some of you. And I'm not the person to judge. I'm just here to present the options to you, whether to me they were good or bad. I will never deny that the writing is fantastic. I think the book is far too long. There is that. And the angst and pain are just the whole way through. And then, like, this definitely had, like, HEA for people. So there's also that. It does have that. But someone gets an HEA that I don't want them to. So it's that type of thing where I was more mad at one of the HEAs than I even was that it was there, right? So that one. All right, then, okay, we have the only one I'm sharing that is a reread because I want to, and it's my channel, so I will. So one of the sci-fi books, this one is actually a YA sci-fi, and I reread it last December. That's why it ends up being on this list, and that's the Illuminati Files by Amy Kaufman and Jay Kristoff. This series, I'm obsessed with it. Okay, I love it. I've read it so many times. The audiobooks are really, like, in my opinion, the only proper way to read this is to listen and follow along if you can, because this book doesn't have any, like, straight up narrative parts to it. It is like a play. Okay, it's like a play, and you should listen to it, because if you try to just read it, you will either try to read every word on every page, or you will just be like, this is nonsensical. It isn't nonsensical when you read it, because the Illuminati Files is so, like, we see what the characters in the book are going through. This begins with a attack on a planet that is it's an outlaw planet. They have an illegal drilling operation going, and so there's the people that are working it and living there, and their families live there with them. And then there are some ships up above that, like, protect it and watch it, and they get attacked by a company that wants to wipe out, I think it's like competition or wipe out, I don't know, they just want to wipe out this planet. And because this planet is illegal, they think that they'll be able to get away with it and that it'll be fine. However, not everyone dies who is on the planet, and in fact, some of them escape onto a ship up there and they take off. Now, this fleet of 3 ships that escape is being chased by the ship that had attacked and is trying to catch them before they make it to a jump gate. It's called the Heimdall jump gate, which will get them back to the main part of space where they'd be able to tell what happened and blah, blah, blah. So that is, like, very briefly this overarching plot of this trilogy. And we start with our main characters being Katie and Ezra, who are actually, this is like, okay, each of these books does have a romance in it, I'll tell you. It's just very subtle. And if you listen to these, which again, only proper way to read these books, it has some romance narrators in it. You will recognize quite a few voices in here, but they go by different names because they use their YA names when they did this. But there is someone named, what is it, Steve West, whose name is awfully similar to a Shane East, just saying. Anyway, I didn't realize that until last year when I listened to these, after having listened to romance books for how many years? Okay, the sun is coming. We have to finish this. So anyway, I'm obsessed with this. The romance in this one between Ezra and Katie is kind of a second chance romance because they've been dating in high school and they've broken up, and the day that they break up is when this happens. So they end up on different ships up in the air. Katie is a hacker and she's trying to figure out what's really going on. And Ezra joins the, like, military that's there, so he becomes like a pilot there because they kind of draft some people into their military because they need it. Or the fighting forces. And then there is also the entity that is the ship. And its name is Aiden. The Advanced Intelligence Diagnostic something network, hidden network, AIDAN, and it has grown smarter than its creators, and it is trying to follow its directive, which is to protect the fleet. And when there are dangers to the fleet, which sometimes is some of the people there, it will react in the way that it sees fit. So I'm obsessed with it. Anyway, I spent so much time explaining this, but that's because I'm a diehard for this. This is on my favorite books of all time. Yes, above other romances, above so many other things, this book is on my top books of all time, and I just love it. I love it so much. I reread it fairly often. Okay, moving along, because we preached about that. All right, now we have just 2 more to talk about. We have another Zoe Draven. However, this one is from, see, this is how far I had to go back. This was book 6 in the Horde King series. So this one, Throne of the Horde King, was book 6 in that series. But again, I'll kind of talk about the beginning of the series. But these are a little bit, like, back when the first one came out, it was really, like, sold as, like, if you loved Drogo and Daenerys from Game of Thrones, because there are these roving hordes of Drakari, and they are in, like, tribes, and there's different, like, a head of a tribe, and humans are not allowed to, like, hunt the food there or start fires. Like, there's a lot of restrictions on humans. They're very much, like, kept oppressed. And the first one starts with our heroine's brother had, like, I think he started a fire or he killed something he was supposed to do. And so the head of this one horde is going to punish her brother, and instead she offers herself in exchange. So she becomes a slave to this I can't remember the name of it. I'm so sorry what he's called. Because it's not called a call. It's it's called something else. But it becomes clear that he doesn't just want to keep her as a slave. He wants more from her. So this is a series where fated mates exist, and it's also a series of a lot of violence and a lot of like pain within it. And the 6th book of this series, I will say, is probably my like least favorite. I don't fully love how this series ended out, but I loved book 1, 2, 4, 5. Like, they're all really good. The audiobooks are excellent. These books are actually getting new covers. They'll be live very soon. Zoe Draven really put in some beautiful work at redoing these, so definitely check this series out. It's fantastic. Also, I should have said this, I do have links to all of these books and audiobooks that I'm talking about will be down below. If you use my Amazon links, I do make a commission off of those, so you're supporting the channel that way, as well as checking out the books that you're interested in. And the last one I want to mention is actually another one that I did not love. This book has a lot of controversy about it. I actually didn't rate this book, but I did receive an ARC from this author, and it's a sci-fi romance. And the author ended up writing a epilogue to this that solidifies the HEA to the story. And a lot of people, if you go look at reviews for this book, people will argue the shit about this, okay? They will argue back and forth. I personally stick by what my review for this book says. Sorry, I'm building it all up. It's Forget Me Not by Carissa Kinward. I was cool with the author's writing style. I thought it was beautiful. The tense that it was written in was, sorry, what is this? I wrote down what it's called. But it's written in a really strange way that I thought was very interesting, but I didn't love how it played out. And I said myself, for me, this book may have an HEA in the author's head, and we may see the potential for what the HEA was going to be, but I don't feel like we saw it. Anyway, what's this about? So this is about our heroine, Eliza, and she is on a ship with her boyfriend, or her longtime partner, Logan, and they are discovering planets and moons and traveling the galaxy. And at one of these stops, a man that Eliza has been dreaming about boards. His name is Silas. And like, he used to be a pirate. He had all these things, and she has dreamed of him. She does dream of him, and these dreams are very sexy. So she has a current partner. She is dating someone. There is nothing inherently wrong with this partner. This isn't a case of like abuse or like whatever. But this man she's dreamed of, who feels like he's her perfect mate, is real. He's not someone she imagined. And the way that her and him act, I don't love, because I don't like really reading cheating books. And it felt like a cheating book to me. So, just saying. And then when the book ended, there was a twist that just pissed me off. It wasn't a twist that I was excited to read or happy about. It made me very angry, but I didn't rate this book. And my review like pissed a lot of people off, but I don't care. I don't care. I didn't rate it. I didn't give it a 1. I didn't cuss it out. It just wasn't for me, and I felt cheated. So something I said at the end of this, I said, ultimately, an author can make any choice they want for their story. That's not my business. What is my business is when the book is falsely marketed. It doesn't feel good to be tricked as a reader, especially when the book is sold to me as a star-crossed lover, fated mate romance, and then pulls the rug out from under me. It's why I read romance, for an HEA. If I know a book isn't going to have an HEA, I stay away from it, and so as not to anger myself. And again, the author has skills, and I will absolutely be willing to read something else for her if I know what I'm getting. So a lot of people were like, the author said it's an HEA, and I was like, but on the page, it leaves it ambiguous. And anyway, you can go check out the reviews for this if you want to see. But yeah, people felt the need to like argue with my review as well. And I was like, I am not trashing this author. I'm giving you my opinion on the book. I'm not giving it a 1-star read and saying like, fuck you or anything. I just don't feel like it was what I was promised. So anyway, ending this off with a little bit of sass, as you know. But those are the last 10 sci-fi romances that I read. Again, there are more sci-fi romances I read, but they were either rereads or they were repeat authors, and I tried to, as you see, like keep that as different as I want. But still, I like this year as a whole, I've only read 20 sci-fi romances out of what am I at, over 500 books. So it definitely is one of the subgenres I read a lot less of. I think it's because, I don't know, I get nervous about trying those. And again, a lot of books that are like kind of sci-fi, they're more fantasy than sci-fi. And so maybe they're just getting categorized that way. And again, I do separate dystopian from sci-fi, not because I don't think they're the same. Like, that's not me. I know that dystopian can fit under sci-fi. It's only because I like separating them out, because I like dystopian a lot, so I give it its own category. The same way that mafia is dark romance, but I give it its own category because it's special to me, if that makes sense. Anyway, there we go. Let me know which one I should do the last 10 of next. Again, I've done a couple already, so check those out. And this is, of course, a series that I'll be able to repeat later on, because in the future I'll have read more and we can do it again. But let's get through some of the other subgenres. Thank you so much for watching this video. I appreciate all the support I get here. If you'd like to support the channel and help me continue to do this full time, I do have links to my Patreon and channel memberships down below. Thank you for watching, friends. We'll see you next time. Bye.